Let's talk about what has been happening between Iran and United States of America. The talks between both countries in Oman have concluded and both sides have now agreed to continue their talks. This development, remember, comes after days of military posturing, sanctions, and a series of sharp public threats, culminating in a high-stakes meeting in Muscat today. In a post on X, a spokesperson for the Iranian Foreign Ministry wrote that the talks had concluded and that the two sides have reached an agreement to continue the talks. The decision regarding the next round of talks will be made after both sides consult their leaders. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi led their respective delegations. The Iranian state media, remember, has described the talks as indirect. Now, there was no indication yet of the Iranian and American officials meeting directly. Images published by the Oman Foreign Ministry showed both sides meeting separately with Oman's Foreign Minister Badr bin Hamad Al Busaidi. Now, even as talks have been underway in Oman, Iran's ambassador to India reiterated that Tehran does not want war, but it is prepared for everything.
They have so many information about us. I want to say that they know us very well. And every movement should see the consequences and the risky. What Iran announced several times, we don't war at all, but we are ready for any options.
Now remember, at the heart of the negotiations is Iran's nuclear program, particularly its uranium enrichment activities. While Tehran insists that the Oman-mediated talks will be centered solely on its nuclear program, Washington wants to discuss Tehran's backing for militant groups in the region and its ballistic missile program. However, remember, the topics of discussion in today's talks remain unclear. As before the crucial talks, Tehran issued a broadside. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi set the tone, saying that the country has entered diplomacy with open eyes and a steady memory of the past year. In fact, Araghchi also said that equal standing, mutual respect, and mutual interest are not rhetoric, but pillars of a durable agreement. Meanwhile, remember, the U.S. President Donald Trump has publicly emphasized that diplomacy is preferred, but he has not ruled out military options if negotiations fail. Iranian leaders responded with stern warnings of retaliation should the U.S. resort to force. Now, in the latest, Tehran has showcased its advanced missile capabilities. Its long-range Khorramshahr 4 hypersonic ballistic missiles have been deployed for the first time in the so-called underground missile cities. As per U.S. estimates, Iran has the largest stockpile of ballistic missiles in West Asia. The arsenal comprises multiple missiles which have a range of 2,000 kilometers. Sejal, for instance, is one of the most potent missiles as it can fly at over 17,000 kilometers per hour. Ghadar, Khorramshahr and Khyber can also fire munitions 2,000 kilometers away. Senior Iranian officials say that missiles and launchers have already been prepared in anticipation of a potential surprise strike by the U.S. Reports are also indicating at increased military cooperation between Iran, Russia and China, especially after the 12-day war in June. With tensions reaching a fever pitch, will these negotiations diffuse tensions, or will it take both sides closer to an all-out conflict? That is the real question that remains at the moment. Of course, we'll have to see, wait and watch what happens in these negotiations. But remember, even as we speak right now, there are details that are still trickling in from the Iranian side as to what exactly happened in this particular meeting. As for the American side, no word from there yet, but there are details that are still emerging from Muscat. This is a very significant time for both Iran and United States of America. Remember, with several reports also suggesting that it is Israel that is pushing America to strike Iran. But will that happen? So far, it hasn't happened because Donald Trump, as per reports, is not convinced of striking Iran. Iran, on the other hand, remember, has been reiterating time and again that should the US attack Iranian soil, there will be a befitting retaliation. But as far as arms and ammunition and military options are concerned, the US is already aware that Iran does have the wherewithal to actually counter American arms and ammunition and an American strike if that happens. But Iran is also careful of the fact that last year in June, there was a 12-day war between Iran and Israel. And as per Donald Trump, they had struck the nuclear strikes. Their nuclear capabilities were struck down by American jets. And therefore, there is, of course, a lot of to and fro that is happening at the moment. No clarity yet on what exactly was decided in this particular meeting as well. But of course, we'll have to wait and watch what really happens. The question that everybody is asking right now is whether Iran will agree to freeze its nuclear program. That is one of the topmost demands from the American side, to freeze the Iranian nuclear program and not have them enrich their uranium capacity. But so far as Iran is concerned, all through these decades, it has been asserting that their nuclear program is only for their own protection and for scientific purposes. All right, let me go across to Yusuf Jalali. He's a journalist. He's joining us from Tehran at the moment. Yusuf, as we speak right now, there are details that are still trickling in as to what exactly happened in this particular meeting in Muscat. But one of the demands from the US side has been to freeze the nuclear program of Iran and limit its enrichment capacities. Is there any sense that you're getting on ground in Iran whether Iran and its government will agree to such a demand? So far as we know, Abbas Araghchi right now has said that this has been a positive start to the meetings and the negotiations will continue.
Well, of course, what's significant for Tehran is that the other side seems to be serious in trying to achieve an agreement with Iran. And Asarachi, the Iranian minister, did an interview with the IRIB, the Iranian state broadcaster, and he said during the interview that saw this more than the latest round war. And what's important for is that the remain focused on the country's nuclear file and not to jump to other topics like the ballistic missile capabilities and Iran's support for the proxies or the militias, also known as the resistance axis. But Iran also demands that the talks remain away from any attention by the United States, meaning the country is demanding that the United States refrain from pressuring Iran militarily. All the military or deployment that is really building up in the region is annoying Tehran, and Tehran says a diplomatic solution not to just talk while just hanging the sword of Iran or above Iran's head. So this is what Tehran, of course, Araghchi seemed to be positive. He said that the talks were carried out indirectly. The Iranian delegation communicated and delivered messages, discussed the Omani mediator, Minister Al-Busaidi, the Omani foreign minister. He was the mediator. The Iranian minister talked to him. Mediator communicated Iran's message to the Americans, and this is what went on for back and forth for more than an hour. So all the talks seem to be fruitful for now, based on the Iranian foreign minister.
All right, Yusuf Jalali, thanks very much for joining us at the moment. Of course, as I told you, viewers, there are details that are still trickling in as far as this meeting is concerned. And as we speak right now, we're getting in a word from the Iranian foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi. He's saying that he hopes that the U.S. refrains from threats for talks to proceed. He's also said that talks with America focus solely on the nuclear issue. And I quote him, "The way forward will depend on our consultations with our capitals." That's Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, saying this in an interview that followed the first round of talks in Oman. Let me also give you a detail of how he has said that this is a positive start. But this is the Iranian side. The American side has not said anything on the first round of negotiations yet.